Thank you. Since there is apparently a virtue in being last, I will take the chairman's prerogative to do so. I want to go back to a question that I opened with, and I want to ask a specific yes, no. We talked about whether the FCC should make this decision at a commission level vote or at a bureau level vote. And several of the answers said any decision to change the ownership cap should be at the commission level vote. I want to ask each of you yes or no. Should the FCC have a commission level vote on the Nexstar-Tegna merger? Mr. Ruddy.
It should be a commission level vote with the full public process.
Mr. LeGeyt.
I don't have a position on that.
Mr. Johnson.
So in transparency, Mr. Chairman, my firm represents Nexstar in this deal. I just want to say that for the record. I'm not speaking for the client. For my personal view, my answer is the same. That's a matter of commission discretion under the Communications Act.
Mr. Waldman.
Yes.
2 yeses, 2 dodges. Okay. Let's get to the substance of the law. There's a disagreement about whether the FCC can change the 39% cap. Let's review what Section 629 of the 2004 Consolidated Appropriations Act did to the Telecommunications Act broadcast ownership rules. It changed the national television cap in the statute from 35% to 39%. It gave businesses 2 years to come into compliance with the 39% limit. It barred the FCC from using its forbearance authority to waive the cap, and it expressly excluded the 39% cap from being part of the FCC's established regulatory review process. This is a question for both Mr. Ruddy and Mr. LeGeyt. Yes or no, on the day after the enactment of this 2004 law, did the FCC have the statutory authority to adopt rules that set the national television audience cap to, say, 42% or 50%, or was the FCC instead bound to follow the 39% cap fixed by statute? Mr. Ruddy.
The reason Congress set it at 39 was that the FCC, after the 96 Act, tried to raise it 45% by fiat. And they said, wait a minute, you can't do this. And there was basically bipartisan support for the 39%. So I don't believe they have the authority, and several legal scholars have said they don't. And so I'm not a legal expert, but it appears pretty black and white that they said it and it should remain law.
Mr. LeGeyt, the day after the 2024 law was passed, could the FCC have set the cap at some number substantially higher than 39%?
Legally, possibly, but as a matter of practicality, given that it was an appropriations directive from Congress, no. But importantly,
so you say legally possibly. How legally possibly?
Because Congress didn't set the 39% cap in statute. They directed the FCC to adjust their regulations from a 35 to 39% cap. It is not codified in statute.
How did they direct them to make it 39%?
Through that Appropriations Act that you just referred to.
And an Appropriations Act is not statute?
What the language of the act did was that it directed a modification of the regulation.
But did it say any modification, or did it say modify it to 39%?
Modify to 39%, but importantly, it did not remove the FCC's authority, which had previously been upheld by the DC Circuit, to modify that number on an ongoing basis.
Well, it did explicitly exclude the 39% cap from being part of the established regulatory review process.
It did. It modified the requirement that the FCC review the cap, but it did not remove the affirmative authority on an ongoing basis to review it.
All right.
Distinction with an important difference.
Next question. The NAB's position is now the FCC could use other authorities to get around that cap, which presumably are the same authorities the FCC had and could have used in 2004, 2005 to change the cap. Put another way, the NAB's position on the 39% ownership cap is that that which is not prohibited is permitted. This is a question for both Mr. Ruddy and Mr. LeGeyt. If we assume that Congress did not clearly bar the FCC from using its general authority to change the statutory cap, is there any legal limit to what the FCC can do with the cap? Mr. LeGeyt?
No, there's not.
Mr. Ruddy?
Well, again, I'm not a lawyer, but if a court would rule that the FCC was not bound by the 2004 law, I'm assuming that it could create a new cap number as it had in the past. But I do believe the 2004 law is binding and a matter of legal statute.
Mr. LeGeyt, could the FCC, the day after the law was adopted, decide that the ownership cap could be 100% of U.S. households? Could it choose 0%?
The FCC, as an administrative agency, obviously needs to go through a period of notice and comment and appropriate administrative procedures, but nothing in the act would prohibit the FCC from doing so.
So it is NAB's position the day after the statute passed that said, change it to 39%. The FCC could have come in and said, we're changing it to 100%.
I think it's unrealistic that that APA process could take place in a single day. But again,
They initiate the process and it takes the time it does, and they could immediately then raise it to 100. Is that your position?
Senator, I'd like to follow up on the question because I do think in the context of an appropriations directive, obviously you are talking about a fiscal year, a directive to the FCC. So realistically, whether they had that authority on the next day, I'd like to dig into that a little bit more. But there's no question that the FCC maintained the authority to review the cap on an ongoing basis following the passage of that law.
Well, you'll certainly have an opportunity to follow up on that, and we're going to have written questions for the record, and I would welcome a more fulsome response. These are important and difficult questions. Mr. Ruddy, same question. Could the FCC have decided right after the 2004 law was passed that the ownership cap should not be 39%, but rather it should be 100%?
It sounds like it would be rather ridiculous if they just flouted what Congress voted and put into statute. And again, you have commissioner after commissioner, chairman after chairman. I mentioned earlier, Ajit Pai, who was President Trump's first chairman, repeatedly said that the cap was law, a matter of law, that he didn't like it, but he couldn't change it, and that, his words, we had to obey the law. Chairwoman Rosenworcel made an opinion against Nexstar in one of their transactions, saying they violated a congressional law and that the Congress only could change it. And Brendan Carr, who was the ranking member at the time, offered a concurring opinion and did not disagree with that. So I think you have a consistent trail here where logic, and I would really encourage the broadcast industry, if they really want this change, it's so important for them, go to the People's House, go to the Congress and the Senate, make their argument that they should do this. But they don't want to do this. They want to use the bureau level, the bureaucrats, and they don't even want to respond. Why can't we have an open process? Why are the broadcasts so afraid for the full commission to look at this and they want to have no opinion on it? Have transparency on this matter.
Okay, final question. If the FCC decides that it has the authority to set aside the statutory cap of 39% and to raise it substantially above what the statute says, what is the likelihood that that decision will be challenged in litigation? And what is a reasonable estimate for how long that litigation will take and what the consequences of that litigation will be? Mr. Ruddy and then Mr. LeGeyt.
I am prepared to litigate the matter. I believe that it's just a blatant violation of congressional law, and I think it's a very dangerous thing that a basically industry group that stands to make billions of dollars can just circumvent what Congress has said. That the public overwhelmingly supports my position and the current law, that they would like less consolidation and they want more diversity in media.
And Mr. LeGeyt, you get the final word, which I guess, given the committee's rule, means you're the best that is here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think if history is a guide here, every modification that the FCC has made to its ownership restrictions has been challenged in court on one side or the other. So I would certainly expect that here as well. But we would certainly ask that judicial review be expedited, because this is an existential crisis for local broadcasters. Right? Our competitive landscape is one in which broadcasters are competing with one hand tied behind our back because of the scale of these global tech companies, Netflix, Amazon, Google, Facebook. They are siphoning away our advertising revenue. They are pulling away our viewers. And the only way we can invest in local communities like yours and continue to do the invaluable work being done across the many markets in your state is with more scale. I mean, I made the point separately, but I want to leave the committee with this, that if judged on an independent standalone basis, more than half of the broadcast newsrooms in this country are not profitable. They would not exist as standalone businesses. The only way that we can continue to serve communities in the 210 markets in this country is to have some scale to do so, and elimination of these rules, which are not, 9 decades old, last reviewed more than 20 years ago. This media landscape's been completely reshaped, and we need to compete.
Okay, I want to thank all the witnesses for their testimony today. This hearing, I think, was quite helpful to the committee. Senators will have until the close of business on February 17th to submit questions for the record. The witnesses will have